The morning of the wedding, Elara woke up to the sound of her father pacing. His footsteps echoed through the thin walls of their house. A house that used to feel grand when she was a child, before the paint started peeling and the roof started leaking and the creditors started calling. She lay in bed, staring at the water stain on her ceiling that looked like a wolf's head, and listened to him wear a path in the floorboards below. "Elara," his voice came up through the heating vent. "You awake?" She didn't answer. If she stayed quiet, maybe the day wouldn't start. Maybe time would just stop right here, in this moment, before everything changed. "Elara, I know you're awake." She closed her eyes. "Today's important," he continued, talking to himself now, or maybe to the ghost of her mother, who'd had the good sense to die before she could see what they'd become. Today fixes everything. Today, we get back on our feet. Today I get sold, Elara thought, but didn't say. She got up, got dressed in her regular clothes, jeans and a sweater that had a hole in the left elbow. The wedding dress was at the church already, hanging in the bride's room like a beautiful threat. She'd tried it on once, 2 months ago, and hadn't looked at it since. Downstairs, her father was drinking coffee that smelled burnt. He looked up when she came in, and for just a second, something that might have been guilt flickered across his face. Then it was gone, replaced by the expression he'd been wearing for 3 years straight, desperation dressed up as determination. "You look tired," he said. "I didn't sleep much." "Nervous?" "Something like that." He set his mug down. "Elara, I know this isn't—" He stopped, started again. "I know you didn't choose this, but Marcus is a good man, successful, respected. He'll take care of you. He's 43, Dad. He's established. He's never been married. Don't you think that's weird?" "He was waiting for the right woman," Elara laughed. It came out harder than she meant it to. "He was waiting for a woman desperate enough to say yes." Her father's jaw tightened. "We are desperate, Elara, in case you haven't noticed. The bank is going to take the house. The business is gone. Everything your grandfather built, everything I've tried to hold on to. It's disappearing. Marcus is offering to clear the debt, all of it, in exchange for me, for a marriage, a partnership. Those aren't the same thing." He looked at her for a long moment. "No," he said quietly. "They're not. But sometimes we don't get what we want. Sometimes we get what we need to survive." Elara felt something cold settle in her chest. "And what do I need, Dad?" He didn't answer, just picked up his coffee and drank it, even though it had to be cold by now. The church was full. Elara stood in the bride's room, wearing the dress that had cost more than most people earned in a year, and listened to the murmur of 300 people on the other side of the door. 300 witnesses to her father's bargain. 300 people who would smile and eat cake and pretend this was about love. Her maid of honor, a cousin she barely knew, because her real friends had all drifted away when the money dried up, was fussing with the veil. "You look beautiful," the cousin said, in the tone of someone trying to convince herself. Elara looked at herself in the mirror. The dress was beautiful, silk and lace and tiny pearls sewn into patterns that probably had names she didn't know, the kind of dress a princess would wear. Or a sacrifice. She looked beautiful and terrified, and nothing like herself. "5 minutes?" someone called from the hallway. The cousin squeezed her shoulder. "It's going to be fine. Marcus is a catch. You're lucky." Elara wanted to ask what part of this felt lucky, but her throat had closed up. The music started. The wedding march played on an organ that was probably older than the church itself. Her father appeared in the doorway, wearing a suit that didn't fit quite right anymore because he'd lost weight. Stress weight. Desperation weight. He offered his arm. "Ready?" She wasn't, but she took his arm anyway, because what else was there to do? They walked down the aisle together. Elara kept her eyes straight ahead, not looking at the faces on either side. If she looked, she'd see pity. Or worse, satisfaction. The town had watched her family fall from grace, and now they were watching her get picked up by a man old enough to be her father, and they'd go home tonight and talk about how far the Vances had fallen. Marcus was waiting at the altar. He looked exactly like what he was, a successful businessman in an expensive suit with silver at his temples and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He'd made his fortune in real estate, buying up properties when people got desperate and selling them when the market recovered. He was good at spotting opportunities. good at knowing when to make his move. Elara was an opportunity. He took her hand when her father passed her over. His palm was dry and cool, professional. The minister started talking. Elara didn't hear most of it. She was too busy trying to breathe, trying to figure out how she'd ended up here, trying to remember if there had been a moment when she could have said no. "If anyone has reason why these two should not be wed," the minister said, "speak now or forever hold your peace." Silence. Of course, silence. Who was going to object? Who was going to save her? No one. She was going to have to save herself, and she didn't know how. The minister smiled. Then by the power, "Wait!" The word came from Marcus. He dropped her hand. Elara looked up at him, confused. The minister stopped mid-sentence. Marcus turned to face the crowd. All 300 people, waiting, watching. "I need to say something," he said. His voice was calm, reasonable, the voice of a man used to being listened to. "Before we go any further, I think everyone here deserves to know the truth about who they're witnessing me marry." Lara's stomach dropped. "Marcus, what are you—" "I've been patient," he continued, talking over her. "I've been understanding. I've tried to help this family out of genuine compassion, but I can't, in good conscience, tie myself to someone who's been lying to me from the beginning." The church was so quiet, Elara could hear her own heartbeat. "What are you talking about?" her father said from the front pew. His voice cracked. Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out a phone. He tapped it a few times, and suddenly his voice was coming through the church's speaker system. "Let me show you all who Elara Vance really is." The screen behind the altar, installed for displaying hymn lyrics, lit up, and there she was. Photos, messages, things she'd done when she was 19, when she'd briefly dated a guy from the city, before her family's money disappeared. Nothing illegal, nothing even that bad, but private things, personal things, the kind of things you don't want displayed in front of 300 people at your wedding. "A woman with secrets," Marcus said. "A woman who pretended to be innocent and pure while hiding this past. A woman who thought she could trap me into marriage without me knowing who she really was." The laughter started, small at first, someone in the back giggling nervously. Then more. Then the whole church, like they'd been given permission. Elara stood frozen. The dress suddenly felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "I deserve better," Marcus said, turning back to her. "I deserve someone worthy." Her father was on his feet. "Marcus, please, we had an agreement. The agreement was based on false pretenses. I'm not responsible for clearing the debts of a family that can't even be honest with me." "Those photos are from years ago," Elara heard herself say. Her voice sounded strange, distant. "I was a different person." "Were you?" Marcus smiled. It was the cruelest thing she'd ever seen. "Or were you just better at hiding it?" More laughter. It echoed off the vaulted ceiling, bounced off the stained glass, filled every corner of the space until there was no room left for air. Elara looked out at the crowd. 300 faces. Some laughing, some shocked, some satisfied. Yes, there it was, that satisfaction, the pleasure of watching someone fall even further than they already had. Her cousin had backed away, like humiliation might be contagious. The minister was staring at his shoes. Her father looked like he was going to be sick. And Marcus looked triumphant. This had been the plan all along, not to marry her, to destroy her, to humiliate her family so thoroughly that they'd never recover. Maybe they'd wronged him somehow. Maybe he just enjoyed the power. Either way, he'd won. Elara felt something crack open inside her chest, not her heart, something deeper. Something that had been holding her together her whole life. The belief that if she just did what she was supposed to, if she just followed the rules, if she just made herself small enough and quiet enough and good enough, she'd be okay. That belief shattered, and underneath it was something she didn't recognize, something that felt like rage. She looked at Marcus, at his satisfied smile, at the phone still in his hand. She looked at her father, collapsed back in the pew, defeated. She looked at the 300 people, waiting to see what she'd do, waiting for her to cry, probably, or beg, or apologize for being human. Elara reached up and pulled the veil off her head. The laughter died down. Everyone watching now. She dropped the veil on the floor, then she walked. Not back down the aisle, not past all those faces. She turned and walked straight toward the side door, the one that led to the church offices and the exit beyond. Elara! Her father's voice. Elara, wait. We can fix this. We can... She didn't wait. She pushed through the door and kept walking. Behind her, the murmurs started up again. Speculation, judgment, the sound of her life becoming a story people would tell at dinner parties. She walked faster. The church office was empty. She went through it, through another door, and suddenly she was outside. The cold hit her like a fist. She was still wearing the wedding dress, just the dress, no coat, and the temperature had dropped 20 degrees since morning. She should go back. Grab her coat, at least. Her phone, her purse. But going back meant facing them, meant hearing them, meant existing in a world where she was the joke, the fallen woman, the desperate girl who couldn't even get through her own wedding. Elara started walking instead. The church was on the edge of town, where the building started giving way to forest. Beyond the forest were the mountains, the range that gave the town its name, that loomed over everything like sleeping giants. There was a storm coming. Everyone knew it. The weather service had been warning about it for days. A massive system moving in from the north, expected to dump 3 feet of snow and bring winds that could kill you if you were caught in them. People were supposed to stay inside, stock up on supplies, wait it out. Elara walked toward it. She didn't have a plan, didn't have anything except the dress and the rage and the desperate need to be anywhere but here. The forest road was empty. No one drove out this way, especially not with a storm coming. Her shoes, delicate things meant for walking down an aisle, not hiking, started falling apart within half a mile. She kicked them off and kept going barefoot. The cold bit into her feet. She didn't care. The road started climbing. The trees got denser. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of snow. Behind her, somewhere in the distance, she heard shouting. Someone had probably noticed she was gone. Probably her father, trying to chase her down, trying to drag her back and salvage something from the wreckage. She walked faster. The road ended at a trailhead, a wooden sign half covered in moss. Summit Trail, 8 miles, experienced hikers only. Elara looked up. The mountain disappeared into low clouds. Snow was already starting to fall, small flakes that stung when they hit her face. She stepped onto the trail. The first mile wasn't bad. The trail was clear, wide enough that she didn't have to think much about where she put her feet. The dress was a problem. It kept catching on branches, getting tangled around her legs, but she gathered it up in her arms and kept moving. The second mile was harder. The trail got steeper, rockier. Her feet started bleeding from cuts she couldn't feel yet. The cold was doing something to her brain, making everything feel distant and unimportant. The third mile was when the storm really hit. The wind came first, strong enough to knock her sideways. Then the snow, thick and blinding. Visibility dropped to nothing. Elara couldn't see the trail anymore, couldn't see anything except white. She kept walking anyway. Forward, up, away. Her body started doing things without her permission, shaking, stumbling, shutting down. Hypothermia, some distant part of her brain supplied. You're dying. Good, another part answered. She didn't want to die. Not really. But she didn't want to go back either, and there didn't seem to be a third option. Her legs stopped working. She went down hard, knees hitting rock. The dress tore. She couldn't feel her hands anymore. Get up, she told herself. She couldn't. The snow kept falling. It started to cover her. It was almost peaceful in a terrible way. This is how it ends, she thought. Not at the altar, not in shame, just here, alone, frozen. She closed her eyes. Someone was yelling at her. The voice came from far away, cutting through the wind. Thinking, are you trying to die? Hands on her shoulders, rough, pulling her up. Elara tried to open her eyes. Couldn't. They were frozen shut. Don't you dare pass out on me. The voice was male, angry. I am not carrying your corpse down this mountain. She felt herself being lifted, carried. The movement sent pain shooting through her body, which meant she wasn't dead yet. Dead people didn't hurt. Stupid, the voice muttered. Absolutely stupid. Who comes up here in a wedding dress during a blizzard? Elara tried to answer. Her mouth didn't work. Don't talk, just stay conscious. You hear me? Stay conscious. She wasn't sure she could. The darkness was pulling at her, promising an end to the cold, to the pain, to everything. But the voice kept yelling, and the hands kept carrying her, and somehow she stayed on the edge of awareness. Time stopped meaning anything. She was cold. Then she was being moved. Then she was cold again. Then there was shelter, sudden absence of wind, and the sound of a door slamming. "This is going to hurt," the voice said. It did. Heat flooded her body, but it felt like being stabbed with 1,000 needles. She screamed, or tried to, but the sound came out as a whimper. "That's good. Pain means you're alive. Keep feeling it." Blankets, wait, more pain. "Your feet are a mess. You're lucky you kept your toes, maybe." Elara managed to get her eyes open. The world was blurry, but she could make out shapes. A small cabin, a fire, and a man, 30s maybe, with dark hair and a face that looked like it had been carved out of the same rock as the mountain. He was wrapping her feet in something, bandages. His movements were efficient but not gentle. "Who are you?" Her voice came out as a rasp. "The idiot who saved your life." He didn't look up. "Name's Kale. You're in my cabin, and you're going to stay here until this storm passes, because you'll die if you go back out there." You need to shut up and let me work." He finished with her feet and moved to her hands. They looked bad, blue and white in patches. He swore under his breath. "I wasn't trying to die," Elara said. "Could have fooled me. I was trying to leave." "Leave what? Civilization?" "Because congratulations, you succeeded." She closed her eyes. "Everything." He was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was slightly less harsh. "Well, you picked a hell of a way to do it." The warmth from the fire was spreading through her body now, and with it came exhaustion so deep she couldn't fight it. Her eyes drifted shut. "Hey," a hand on her shoulder, shaking. "Don't fall asleep yet. I need to make sure you're not going into shock." "I'm fine." "You're a terrible liar." "I've had a bad day." "Yeah, I can tell." He sat back. "What's your name?" "Elara." "Okay, Elara. Here's how this is going to work. You're going to stay awake for the next hour. You're going to drink the tea I'm about to make you, even though it tastes like dirt. And you're going to tell me what the hell you were thinking, wandering into a blizzard in a wedding dress." "I don't want to talk about it." "Too bad. You're in my cabin. My rules. Talk." Elara opened her eyes again. Kale was watching her with an expression that was hard to read. Not sympathetic, not curious, just expectant. Like he was used to getting answers. "I ran," she said finally. "From my wedding. From my father. From a town full of people who watched me get humiliated and laughed about it. So you decided to freeze to death instead." "I wasn't thinking that far ahead." "Clearly." He got up and moved to a small kitchen area, just a counter and a camping stove. He started heating water. "How long until the storm passes?" Elara asked. 3 days? Maybe 4? 4 days? It's a big system, and we're high enough up that we'll get the worst of it." He glanced back at her. "Hope you didn't have plans." Elara laughed. It hurt. "No plans." "Good, because you're stuck here, with me, in a cabin that's barely big enough for one person." He poured the hot water over something that looked like dried weeds. "And I'm not good company." "Neither am I." "Yeah, I figured." He brought the tea over and handed it to her. "Drink." She took a sip. It did taste like dirt. She drank it anyway. Kale watched her for a moment, then nodded, satisfied. "You'll live. Probably." "Thanks for the vote of confidence." "Don't thank me yet. You haven't seen what survival looks like up here." He moved to the fire and added another log. "This isn't a vacation. This isn't an escape. This is just a different kind of hard. Can't be worse than what I left." He looked at her over his shoulder. His eyes were gray, like the storm outside. "We'll see." The first night was the worst. Elara's body, warming up after being so close to freezing, went through cycles of shaking and sweating. Her feet throbbed. Her hands burned. Every time she started to drift off, Kyle would shake her awake and make her drink more tea, or eat something, or just talk. "Why are you up here?" she asked at some point, when the cabin had gone dark except for the firelight. In the middle of nowhere. Because people are terrible. That's not an answer. Sure it is. He was sitting by the fire, sharpening a knife. The sound of the blade against the stone was rhythmic and oddly soothing. You're a person, Elara pointed out. Yeah, and I'm terrible too. That's how I know. You saved my life. I would have saved a dog's life too. Doesn't make me a good person. Just means I'm not a murderer. Elara pulled the blankets tighter. You live up here alone? Most of the time. That sounds lonely. That sounds like peace. She was quiet for a while, listening to the wind howl outside. It sounded like the mountain was trying to tear itself apart. What's your story? She asked finally. Everyone's got one. Kale didn't look up from the knife. I was a ranger. Worked for the Forest Service. Spent 10 years trying to protect land from people who didn't give a damn about it. Got tired of fighting. Came up here instead. That's it? That's enough. There's more. There's always more. Doesn't mean I'm sharing it. He tested the knife's edge with his thumb. You want to swap sad stories? Find someone else. I'm not your therapist. I wasn't asking you to be. Good. They sat in silence. The fire cracked. The wind screamed. I didn't love him, Elara said quietly. My fiancé. I didn't even like him. I was going to marry him anyway, because my father needed me to. Because my family was drowning, and I was supposed to save them. Kyle finally looked up. Did you? Did I what? Save them. No, I just humiliated them worse. She closed her eyes. He put photos of me on a screen, in front of everyone. Nothing terrible, just private things. Things I'd done before I knew better, and everyone laughed. People do that. Laugh? Hurt you when you're already down. Makes them feel better about their own lives. How does that make you feel better? Because if you're the one falling, they're not. Elara opened her eyes. Kyle was watching her with that same hard-to-read expression. You should sleep, he said. For real this time. You're not going to die in your sleep anymore. How do you know? Because I know what dying looks like. And you're past it. He stood up and moved to the other side of the small cabin, where there was a cot. You take the bedroll by the fire. I'll take this. It's your cabin. And you're the one who almost froze to death. Take the bedroll. She was too tired to argue. She lay down, wrapped in every blanket Kale owned, and stared at the ceiling. It was rough wood, smoke-stained from years of fires. Kyle? What? Thank you for not letting me die. He was quiet for a long moment. Don't thank me yet. Tomorrow we start figuring out if you can actually survive up here, and I guarantee you're not going to like it. I already don't like it. Then you're starting from the right place. Sam. She woke up to the smell of something cooking. Not good cooking, just cooking, meat and grease and smoke. Elara sat up. Her whole body ached. Her feet were wrapped in fresh bandages. When had he done that? And her hands looked like they belonged to someone else, swollen and discolored. Kyle was at the stove, flipping something in a pan. He glanced over when he heard her move. You're awake. Unfortunately. Eat this. He brought over a plate with charred meat and what might have been potatoes. You need calories. Elara took the plate. The meat was tough and gamey. She ate it anyway. What is this? Rabbit. You hunt? How do you think I eat up here? DoorDash? Despite everything, she almost smiled. Right. He sat down across from her with his own plate. Here's the situation. Storm's not letting up. We're snowed in for at least 3 more days, maybe 4. I've got enough supplies for me for a month. For 2 people, less than 2 weeks. I'll leave when the storm clears. And go where? Back down. To town. The town where you got humiliated in front of everyone? Elara stopped chewing. You don't know anything about it. I know you ran into a blizzard in a wedding dress. That tells me everything I need to know. Which is what? That you don't have anywhere to go back to. She wanted to argue. Couldn't. Kyle kept eating. So here's option 2. You stay. You learn. You make yourself useful. Useful how? Chopping wood, hauling water, setting traps. Whatever needs doing. He looked at her. Up here, everyone pulls their weight or they don't survive. No exceptions. I don't know how to do any of that. Then you'll learn, or you'll leave and take your chances down there. He stood up, taking his empty plate to the basin. Your choice. Elara looked down at her bandaged hands, thought about going back, facing her father, facing Marcus, facing a whole town that now had a new story about the Vance girl who couldn't even keep it together at her own wedding. She thought about the laughter. I'll stay, she said. Until when? I don't know. Kale turned around. Not good enough. I need to know if you're serious or if you're just hiding. What's the difference? Serious means you commit. You push through when it gets hard, and it will get hard. Hiding means you run at the first sign of trouble, like you did yesterday. I wasn't running. Then what were you doing? I was choosing something different. Different how? I don't know yet. The words came out sharper than she meant them to. She took a breath. I don't know. I just know I can't go back there. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Kale studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay, we'll start there. Start what? Teaching you how to survive. He moved to the door and started pulling on layers. A thick coat, boots, gloves. Storm or no storm, there's work to do. Get dressed, everything you've got. We're going outside? You wanted different. This is different. He opened the door. Wind and snow blasted in. Welcome to the mountain, Elara. Hope you're ready. She wasn't, but she got dressed anyway. The cold outside was different from anything Elara had experienced the night before. This wasn't just cold, it was aggressive. It found every gap in the clothes Kyle had given her, every exposed inch of skin, and attacked. The wind didn't blow so much as punch, shoving her sideways before she'd made it 3 steps from the door. Stay close! Kale's voice barely cut through the howl. You get separated, you die. Understand? She nodded, then realized he couldn't see her through the blowing snow. Yes. He had a rope in his hands. He tied one end around his waist, then handed her the other end. Tie this around yourself. Keep tension on it. If you fall, I'll know. Her fingers were already clumsy with cold, but she managed the knot. Kyle checked it, tightened it, then started walking. The world was white. Not peaceful white. Violent white. Snow came from every direction at once, up and down and sideways. Elara couldn't see more than a few feet ahead. She focused on Kyle's back, on putting one foot in front of the other, on not falling. They walked for what felt like hours, but was probably 10 minutes. Then Kyle stopped and started digging. She watched, confused, until he uncovered a wooden trapdoor built into the ground. Root cellar, he said, hauling it open. Get in. She climbed down a short ladder into darkness. Kyle followed, pulling the door shut behind them. The wind cut off instantly, leaving a ringing silence. He clicked on a flashlight. They were in a small underground room, walls lined with shelves. Jars of preserved food, sacks of dried goods, crates of supplies. This is your first lesson, Kyle said, moving to one of the shelves. Preparation. Everything up here is about preparing for the worst before it happens. He started loading items into a pack. In town, you can be lazy. You can wait until you need something to go get it. Up here, that gets you killed. How long have you been preparing this? 3 years? Every summer I stock it. Every winter I use it. He handed her a smaller pack. Fill this. Dried meat, beans, flour, anything that won't freeze. She started loading the pack. Her hands hurt. Everything hurt. But she didn't complain. Why not just keep this stuff in the cabin? She asked. Because cabins burn. Floods? Get crushed by trees? You never keep all your resources in one place. He was systematically working his way through the shelves, taking some things, leaving others. Rule number 1, redundancy. Always have a backup, and a backup for the backup. That sounds exhausting. That sounds like staying alive. They worked in silence for a few minutes. Elara's pack got heavier. She tried to lift it and nearly fell over. Too much? Kyle asked. No. You're lying. I can handle it. He looked at her for a long moment, then took 2 jars out of her pack. Pride's going to get you killed up here. If something's too heavy, say so. If you're too tired, say so. I'd rather have you honest than dead. I thought you said you weren't good company. I'm not. But I'm also not stupid enough to let you collapse from exhaustion and have to carry you back. He hoisted his own pack, easily twice the size of hers. Let's go. The trip back was harder. The wind had picked up. Visibility was down to nothing. Elara followed the rope, followed Kael's shadow, and tried not to think about how easy it would be to lose her footing and disappear into the white. When they finally made it back to the cabin, she fell through the door and just lay there on the floor, breathing hard. Get up, Kael said. Give me a minute. No, get up now. You stop moving. Your body thinks it's time to shut down. Get up. She forced herself to her feet. Her legs were shaking. Take off the wet clothes. Hang them by the fire. He was already doing the same, moving with efficient purpose. Then you eat. Then we go again. Again? You think that was the only supply run we need? We've got water to haul, traps to check, firewood to split. He looked at her. You said you wanted to stay. This is what staying looks like. Elara wanted to argue, wanted to sit down and never get up. But she changed her clothes and ate the food he put in front of her and followed him back out into the storm. They made 4 trips that day. By the 4th, Elara couldn't feel her face, couldn't think straight, just followed the rope and tried not to die. When they finally stopped, when Kael said they were done for the day, she collapsed onto the bedroll and didn't move. Drink this. He pushed a cup into her hands. She drank without looking. It was broth, salty and hot, and the best thing she'd ever tasted. Tomorrow's going to be worse, Kael said. How? Because today you had adrenaline. Tomorrow you'll just have pain. He was right. The next morning, Elara woke up and couldn't move. Every muscle in her body screamed. Her feet were still bandaged and throbbing. Her hands had split open in new places from gripping the rope. Kael took one look at her and tossed a small bottle onto the bedroll. Take 2 of those. What is it? Pain medication. You're going to need it. I'm fine. You can't even sit up. Take the pills. She took them. 20 minutes later, the pain dulled to something manageable. She got up, got dressed, and followed Kael outside again. This time they checked traps. He had them set up in a wide radius around the cabin, each one carefully placed and camouflaged. Most were empty. 2 had rabbits. One had something Elara couldn't identify. Martin, Kael said, examining it. Good fur. Meat's tough but edible. He showed her how to reset the traps, how to bait them, how to approach without leaving too much scent. She tried to pay attention, but her brain felt foggy. You with me? Kael asked. Yeah. Then tell me what I just said. She couldn't. He made her watch him do it again. By the 3rd day, Elara was moving on autopilot. Wake up, eat, work, collapse, repeat. Kael was relentless. He never yelled, never pushed, but he also never let up. If something needed doing, they did it. No excuses. Why are you doing this? She asked on the 4th morning. The storm had finally started to break. Patches of sky were visible through the clouds. Doing what? Teaching me. You could have just let me rest until the storm passed and sent me on my way. Kael was sharpening a hatchet. He didn't look up. Because if I send you down there without teaching you anything, you'll either come back up here and die, or you'll go back to your town and wish you had. So you're doing this out of the goodness of your heart? I'm doing this because I don't like waste. He tested the hatchet's edge. You survived that storm. You survived 3 days of hard work. That means you've got something in you worth keeping alive. Might as well see what it is. What if there's nothing? Then you'll figure that out too. That afternoon, he took her to a clearing where a dead tree had fallen. We need firewood. You're going to cut it. He handed her the hatchet. Elara looked at the tree, looked at the hatchet. I've never done this before. I know. That's why I'm teaching you. He positioned her hands on the handle. Feet shoulder-width apart, knees bent. Let the weight of the hatchet do the work. Don't try to muscle it. She swung. The blade bounced off the wood. Again. She swung. Same result. You're tensing up. Relax your shoulders. Swing through the wood, not at it. It took 20 swings before she actually bit into the wood, 50 before she got a rhythm going. By the time she'd cut through the first section, her arms felt like they were going to fall off. Good, Kael said. Now do the rest of it. The whole tree? You wanted to learn. This is learning. It took her the rest of the day. By the end, she had a pile of wood sections and blisters on top of blisters. Kyle made her stack the wood, carry it back to the cabin, and split the pieces small enough to feed the fire. I hate you, she said when they were finally done. No, you don't. I really think I do. You hate that I'm making you work. That's different. He added a log to the fire. In a few weeks, you'll thank me. I won't be here in a few weeks. We'll see. The storm cleared the next day. Elara woke up expecting Kale to tell her it was time to leave, time to head back down the mountain. Instead, he said, "Get dressed. We're hunting today." I thought the storm was over. It is, which means the animals are going to be out looking for food. Best time to hunt. I don't know how to hunt, which is why I'm teaching you. They hiked for an hour through snow that came up to Elara's knees. Kale moved through it like it was nothing, reading the landscape in ways she didn't understand. He'd stop occasionally, examine tracks, adjust their direction. Deer, he said, pointing at marks in the snow. Young one. Separated from the herd, probably. How can you tell it's young? Size of the hoof print, depth of the track. See how it's wandering? An older deer would move with more purpose. They followed the tracks for another mile. Then Kyle stopped and gestured for her to get down. They crouched behind a fallen log. There, he whispered, pointing. Elara saw it. A deer, maybe 50 yards away, digging through snow to get at the grass underneath. Kyle pulled a rifle from his shoulder. This is a clean shot. You want to take it? Me? You need to learn sometime. I can't shoot a deer. Why not? Because she didn't have a good answer. Because it's alive. So are you, and you've been eating meat every day since you got here. Where do you think it comes from? That's different. How? She didn't know. It just was. Kyle sighed and raised the rifle himself. Watch. One shot. The deer dropped. That's how you do it, he said. Quick, clean, no suffering. He stood up. Come on, now you learn how to field dress it. That was worse than chopping wood. Kyle talked her through every step, how to bleed it out, how to remove the organs without puncturing anything important, how to skin it and quarter the meat. Her hands were covered in blood by the end. She felt sick. This is survival, Kyle said, wrapping the meat. Not pretty, not easy, but necessary. You understand? Elara nodded. She did understand. That was the problem. They hauled the meat back to the cabin and spent the rest of the day processing it. Some of it Kyle smoked. Some he salted and hung to dry. Some went into the root cellar. Nothing gets wasted, he said. Bones go to making broth. Hide gets tanned. Sinew gets dried for cordage. You use everything or you starve. Do you ever feel bad about it? Elara asked. Killing them? Every time. He was scraping the hide clean, but feeling bad doesn't change what needs to be done. You either make peace with it or you don't survive. That's bleak. That's honest. That night, eating venison stew by the fire, Elara realized she'd stopped thinking about the wedding, about Marcus, about her father and the debt and the town. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, her brain wasn't circling the drain of her own failure. You're quiet, Kale said. I'm tired. That's not it. She looked at him. How do you know? Because I know what tired looks like. This is something else. She was quiet for a moment. I feel different. Different how? Clearer, like my head's not full of static anymore. Kale nodded. That's what the mountain does, strips everything down to what matters. Food, shelter, survival. Everything else is just noise. I don't know if I like it. You don't have to like it. You just have to decide if it's better than what you left behind. She thought about the church, the laughter, the photos on the screen. Yeah, she said, it's better. The days started to blur together. Wake up, work, eat, work, sleep, repeat. Kyle taught her how to purify water from the stream, how to identify animal tracks, how to build a fire in the snow, how to navigate using landmarks instead of a compass. Technology fails, he said. Batteries die. GPS satellites go down. But the mountain's always there. Learn to read it. She learned, Not because she was naturally good at it, she wasn't. She was clumsy and slow and made mistakes constantly. But she learned because Kyle didn't let her quit. Every time she messed up, he made her do it again. And again. Until she got it right. "Why do you care?" she asked one afternoon. They were practicing fire starting with wet wood. She'd failed 6 times in a row. "I don't." "Then why keep teaching me?" He was quiet for a while, watching her work. "Because the first winter I spent up here, I almost died. Thought I knew everything. Thought I was prepared. I wasn't." He poked at her attempt with a stick. "Tinder's too wet. Strip some bark from that birch tree. Inner layer stays dry even in snow." She did. Tried again. "A trapper found me," Kyle continued. "Old guy. Probably 70. He didn't have to help me. Could have left me to figure it out on my own. But he didn't. Spent 2 months teaching me everything he knew." "What happened to him?" "He died. 3 years ago. Heart attack. Found him in his cabin." Cale stood up. "Before he died, he told me the only way to repay him was to pass it on. So that's what I'm doing." The fire caught. Small flames licking at the tinder. "Good," Cale said. "Now build it up. Slow. Don't smother it." She built it up. The flames grew. "You're getting better," he said. It was the first compliment he'd given her. She tried not to let it matter. Failed. 2 weeks after the storm, Elara woke up and realized she hadn't thought about going back in days. The idea of returning to town, to her old life, felt impossible, like something that had happened to a different person. "The trails should be clear enough now," Kyle said over breakfast. "If you want to head down." She looked at him. "Do you want me to leave?" "Doesn't matter what I want." "That's not an answer." "It's the only answer I've got." Elara looked around the cabin. It was small, cramped, nothing like the house she'd grown up in, but it felt more real than anywhere she'd ever been. "I want to stay," she said. "If that's okay." Kyle didn't react, just kept eating. "It's going to get harder. Winter's not over. We've got months of cold ahead." "I know. And I'm not going to go easy on you. You stay, you work. Same as me." "I know." He looked at her for a long moment. "Why?" "Why what?" "Why stay? You could go back, rebuild, start over somewhere else. Why choose this?" Elara thought about it. "Because down there, I was someone's daughter, someone's almost wife, someone's joke. Up here, I'm just me, and I'm starting to like who that is." Kale nodded slowly. "All right then. Finish your food. We've got traps to check." The work didn't get easier, but Elara got stronger. Her hands toughened, her feet healed. The cuts and blisters became calluses. She learned to read the weather by the way the wind shifted, learned to walk in snowshoes without tripping, learned to gut a fish without flinching. She also learned about Kyle. Not because he volunteered information, he didn't, but in the small moments. The way he always checked her knots before they went out. The way he'd leave extra food on her plate without commenting. The way he'd sometimes stand at the window and stare at nothing, his jaw tight. "Were you married?" she asked one night. "Why?" "Just wondering." "Don't wonder." That's not a no. He was quiet for so long she thought he wasn't going to answer. Then, "Yeah, I was married." "What happened?" "She left. Said she couldn't compete with the job. With the mountains. She was right." "Do you regret it?" "Every day." He stood up and walked to the door. "I'm going to check the perimeter. Don't wait up." He was gone for 2 hours. When he came back, he didn't speak, just went to his cot and lay down. Elara learned not to push, learned that Kyle had walls same as her, and they'd come down when they were ready. Or they wouldn't. Either way, it wasn't her business. But something was shifting between them. The first few weeks they'd been strangers forced together by circumstance. Now they were something else. Not friends exactly, but not strangers either. Partners, maybe. One morning, Kyle woke her before dawn. "Get up, quietly." "What's wrong?" "Nothing, just move." She dressed fast and followed him outside. The sky was just starting to lighten. He led her to the edge of the clearing and pointed. A wolf pack. 7 of them, moving through the trees like shadows. "Don't make a sound," Kyle whispered. "Don't move." They watched the wolves pass. Beautiful, and terrifying. When they were gone, Kyle turned to her. You see that? Yeah. That's what you're competing with up here. They're stronger, faster, better adapted. The only advantage you have is your brain. You stay smart. You stay alive. Why'd you show me this? Because you need to understand. The mountain doesn't care about your feelings, doesn't care about your past. It's indifferent. And indifference is more dangerous than cruelty. At least cruelty means you matter enough to hurt. Elara looked at the tracks the wolves had left. Do I matter? Kale started walking back to the cabin. You're still here, aren't you? It wasn't an answer, but coming from him it was close enough. By the end of the third week, Elara could set and check the trap line by herself, could split wood without blistering, could start a fire in under 5 minutes even with damp tinder. She was still learning, still making mistakes, but she was competent, capable. She caught Kale watching her sometimes, not critically, just watching, like he was trying to figure something out. What? She asked one afternoon. You're not the same person who ran up here in a wedding dress. Is that good or bad? It's just true. She thought about that, about who she'd been, the woman who'd let herself be traded, who'd let her father make decisions, who'd stood at that altar and waited for someone to save her. That woman was gone. Or maybe she'd never really existed. Maybe she'd been a performance, and the mountain had just stripped away the costume. I like who I'm becoming, she said. Good, because she's the only one who's going to keep you alive. That night, a different storm rolled in. Smaller than the first one, but still vicious. They spent it in the cabin, Kyle teaching her how to tan the deer hide they'd been working on. You stretch it like this, he said, showing her how to lace it into a frame. Keep the tension even, or it'll cure wrong. She copied his movements. Her fingers were getting nimble, clever. When I was a kid, she said, my mom used to make quilts. She'd spend months on them. I never understood why. You could just buy a blanket. But it wouldn't be the same. No, it wouldn't. She pulled the lacing tight. She died when I was 12. Dad sold all her quilts when we started having money problems. Kale didn't say anything, just kept working. I used to be so angry at him for that, Elara continued. But I think I get it now. When you're drowning, you'll grab onto anything, even if it's precious, even if it's all you have left of someone you loved. Doesn't make it right. No, but it makes it human. The storm howled outside. Inside, the cabin was warm, safe, small. You forgive him? Kyle asked. I don't know yet. Maybe. She looked at the hide, at the work of her own hands. I'm not carrying it around anymore, though. The anger, it's too heavy. What are you carrying instead? She thought about it. Myself. Just myself? Kale nodded. That's enough. If you or someone you know is having a difficult time, free support is available. Find resources. Spring came slowly to the mountain, like it had to fight for every inch of ground. The snow didn't melt so much as retreat, leaving behind muddy patches and exposed rock. The streams swelled with runoff. Animals that had been hiding all winter emerged lean and hungry. Elara had been on the mountain for 2 months when she killed her first deer. They'd been tracking it since dawn. A buck, judging by the tracks. Kyle had handed her the rifle without a word, a test she hadn't known she was taking. She found it in a clearing, grazing on the first green shoots pushing through the snow. Her hands were steady on the rifle. Her breathing was calm. She lined up the shot the way Kyle had taught her, exhaled slowly, and pulled the trigger. The buck dropped. Clean kill. Good shot, Kyle said behind her. She waited for the guilt to hit, the same sickness she'd felt watching him do it. But it didn't come. Just a quiet sense of completion. The mountain had taught her this, had made her into someone who could do what needed doing. They field dressed it together. This time, her hands didn't shake. She knew where to cut, how deep, what to avoid. The work was grim but necessary, and she'd made peace with that. You've changed, Kyle said as they hauled the meat back. You've said that before. This time I mean it different. He adjusted the pack on his shoulders. You're not just surviving anymore, you're adapting. Is that good? It's dangerous. She looked at him. How? Because once you adapt to this, everything else starts to feel wrong. The town, the people, the noise. You start to need the silence. He didn't look at her. Take it from someone who knows. Would you ever go back? Elara asked. To a town. To people. No. Why not? Because I like who I am up here, and I hate who I become down there. She understood that more than she wanted to. That night, cooking the venison over the fire, Kael asked her something he'd never asked before. What are you going to do when summer comes? What do you mean? Summer's easier, warmer, more food, less risk. That's when most people leave. Are you asking me to leave? I'm asking what you want. Elara watched the flames. I don't know. I haven't thought past tomorrow in months. Maybe you should. Why? What's changed? He was quiet for a long time. Nothing. Everything. You came up here running from something, but you can't run forever. Eventually you have to decide what you're running toward. What if I don't know? Then you figure it out. But you can't do it hiding on a mountain. His words sat heavy in her chest. She didn't want to think about leaving, didn't want to imagine going back to a world where people asked questions and expected answers she didn't have. But Kael was right. She couldn't hide forever. The conversation hung between them for days, unfinished. They worked, they hunted, they maintained the careful routine that had kept them both alive. But something had shifted. A clock had started ticking. Then, on a clear morning in early April, everything changed. Kael was checking the traps on the North Ridge. Elara was supposed to be chopping wood, but she'd decided to explore a section of the forest they hadn't been to yet. Just an hour, she'd told herself. Just to see what was there. She was following a game trail when she heard voices. Human voices. Multiple. Coming from the direction of the main trail. Elara froze. Her first instinct was to run, to hide, but something made her stop. She moved quietly through the trees, staying low until she could see them. 4 men. 3 in tactical gear carrying rifles. The 4th in a suit that was completely wrong for the terrain, picking his way carefully over the rocks. Marcus. Her breath caught. She knew she should move, should get back to the cabin and warn Kael, but her legs wouldn't work. This is idiotic, one of the tactical guys was saying. She's probably dead. It's been 2 months. She's not dead. That was Marcus. His voice carrying that same calm certainty that had once made her think he was confident. Now she recognized it for what it was. Arrogance. She's up here somewhere, and we're going to find her. Why? Another guard asked. What's the point? The point is that she embarrassed me, made me look like a fool in front of the entire town. Marcus stepped over a fallen log. And more importantly, she has something that belongs to me. Like what? She ran out in a wedding dress. Her father signed a contract. She was part of a business arrangement, and she violated it. That makes her a debtor. And I always collect what I'm owed. Elara's hands curled into fists. Of course. Of course this wasn't about her. It was about money. About ownership. About a man who couldn't stand losing something he thought belonged to him. Even if we find her, the first guard said, you can't just drag someone off a mountain. There are laws. There are also loopholes. Her father declared her mentally unstable when she ran. I have guardianship papers, all legal. Marcus smiled. Once we find her, we're bringing her back, for her own safety, naturally. And if she doesn't want to come? That's what you 3 are for. Elara backed away slowly, carefully, trying not to make a sound. When she was far enough, she ran. She found Kael at the cabin cleaning his rifle. He took one look at her face and stood up. What happened? They're here. Marcus. And 3 men with guns. They're looking for me. Kael's expression didn't change. How far? Maybe 2 miles, following the main trail. He moved immediately, gathering supplies with practiced efficiency. How many guns? 3 rifles, maybe sidearms too. Did they see you? No. You're sure? Yes. He handed her a pack. Take this. There's a cave system about 5 miles northeast. You remember the landmarks I showed you? I'm not running. Elara said, I'm not running. She said it louder. I ran once. I'm not doing it again. This isn't about pride. Those are armed men. I know what they are, and I know why they're here. Marcus thinks he owns me, Thinks he can just come up here and take me back like I'm property. She grabbed her own rifle from the wall. I'm done being something someone owns. Kale studied her. You understand what you're saying? If we fight, people might get hurt, might die. I understand. And you're willing to live with that? She thought about Marcus on the screen, showing those photos. Thought about the laughter. Thought about her father selling her like livestock. Thought about every moment in her life when someone else had made decisions about who she was and what she was worth. Yes, she said. I'm willing. Kale nodded slowly. All right, then we prepare. They spent the next hour turning the clearing around the cabin into a trap. Kale knew the land better than anyone, knew where to place obstacles that would slow people down, where to create choke points, how to use the terrain itself as a weapon. They'll come up the main trail, he said, marking positions on a rough map. Only way up that doesn't require climbing gear, which means they'll approach from the south. What if they split up? They won't. Hired guns like to stay together, safer that way. He looked at her. You know how to shoot? You taught me. I taught you to hunt. This is different. How different? Deer don't shoot back. Elara checked her rifle, made sure it was loaded. I can do this. I know you can. Question is whether you should. You said you'd help me. I said I'd teach you to survive. This isn't surviving. This is choosing a fight. No. Elara met his eyes. This is choosing to stop running. There's a difference. Something flickered across Kael's face. Respect, maybe. Or recognition. Yeah, there is. They took positions. Kael on the high ground behind the cabin, where he had a clear view of the approach. Elara in a stand of trees to the east, where she could cover the flank. The plan was simple. Let them come. Give them a chance to leave. If they didn't take it, make them regret staying. The waiting was worse than the work. Elara's heart hammered. Her palms sweat despite the cold. Every sound made her jump. Wind in the trees, a bird taking flight, a branch cracking under snow. Then she heard them. Boots on rock. Voices carrying through the thin air. Marcus emerged first, looking completely out of place in his suit. The three guards flanked him, rifles ready, moving with professional caution. They stopped at the edge of the clearing. One of the guards held up a fist. Everyone froze. That's far enough, Kael's voice rang out from somewhere above. Turn around, go back down. The guards scanned the tree line, trying to locate him, smart enough not to point their weapons yet. Marcus stepped forward. We're not here for trouble. We're looking for someone. A woman. Elara Vance. She's been missing for 2 months. We have reason to believe she might be up here. No one here by that name. I think you're lying. Marcus's voice stayed calm, reasonable. And I think you know exactly where she is, possibly holding her against her will. That's a serious accusation. I have legal authority to retrieve her. Guardianship papers signed by her father. She's mentally unwell, a danger to herself. We're here to help her. Elara felt rage spike through her chest. Mentally unwell. Of course, that's the story they'd tell. Easier than admitting she'd chosen to leave. She doesn't want your help, Kael said. I'd like to hear that from her. You're hearing it from me. Now leave. While you still can. One of the guards spoke up. Sir, maybe we should... We're not leaving without her. Marcus cut him off. Search the area. She's here somewhere. The guards hesitated. They were professionals, which meant they recognized a bad situation when they saw it. But they were also being paid. Money won. They spread out, moving toward the cabin. Elara's finger found the trigger. Not yet. Kael had been clear. Warning shots first, then escalate if necessary. The lead guard reached the cabin door, tried the handle, locked. Breach it, Marcus said. The guard looked back at him. Sir, I really think... The shot rang out so close to the guard's head that he dropped and rolled, rifle up, scanning for targets. Next one's not a warning, Kael said. The guards had their weapons up now, pointing at nothing, trying to find him. Marcus had backed up, using his own men as shields. This is illegal, Marcus shouted. You're threatening law enforcement. You're not law enforcement, you're trespassing. And up here, that's a good way to die. I have paperwork. I have bullets. Want to compare? One of the guards was talking into a radio, calling for backup, probably. That was bad. More men meant more problems. Elara made a decision. She stepped out from the trees, rifle at her shoulder, aimed at Marcus. Everyone turned. The guards swung their weapons toward her. "Lower your guns," she said. Her voice was steady. Strange how calm she felt. "Or I put a hole in him." "Elara." Marcus's face did something complicated. Relief and anger and calculation. "Thank goodness. These men told me you were—" "Shut up." She took a step forward. "I heard what you said about contracts and ownership and dragging me back. So here's what's actually going to happen. You're going to turn around. You're going to walk back down this mountain, and you're going to tell everyone I'm dead. You understand? You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking clearer than I have in years. You don't own me. My father doesn't own me. No one does. I'm done." "You're making a mistake. The mistake was almost marrying you." One of the guards spoke quietly. "Sir, we should go. This is escalating beyond our pay grade." Marcus ignored him. "Your father's debt doesn't disappear just because you ran away. The bank is going to take everything. The house, the land, everything your family built. You're okay with that? That's his problem, not mine. He's your father. He's the man who sold me to settle his mistakes. I don't owe him anything." She could see Marcus calculating, trying to find an angle. He'd probably never had someone tell him no before. Not really. Not in a way that mattered. "The guards have called for backup," he said finally. "More men. Better equipped. They'll be here by tomorrow. You can shoot me if you want, but it won't change anything." Cale appeared from behind the cabin, rifle trained on the guards. "Then you better hope they're good climbers. Because the trail you came up, that's the easy route. Everything else requires gear you don't have and skills you haven't trained for." "We'll find a way." "You'll die trying." "Is that a threat?" "It's geography." The standoff held, 4 guns on one side, 2 on the other. Nobody moving, nobody backing down. Then the mountain decided for them. Elara heard it first, a deep rumble, like thunder underground. Cale's head snapped up, eyes scanning the ridge above them. "Everyone down!" he shouted. "Now!" The guards looked confused. Marcus started to say something. Then the rumble got louder and the snow on the upper ridge started to move. Avalanche. Not a big one. Not enough to bury them, but enough to cut off the trail, enough to trap anyone who didn't move fast. Everyone scattered. The guards ran for cover. Marcus stumbled, fell. Elara grabbed him without thinking, hauled him toward the cabin. They made it inside just as the wave of snow and rock roared past, close enough that the spray hit the windows. When it stopped, the world was white and silent. Elara looked out. The trail was gone, buried under tons of snow and debris. The guards were on the other side of it, cut off, already backing away. She could see them arguing, gesturing. Then they turned and started hiking back the way they'd come. Smart. They knew when they were beaten. Marcus was on the floor of the cabin, breathing hard. Elara stood over him, rifle still in her hands. "You should have left when you had the chance," she said. He looked up at her, really looked at her, and for the first time she saw something like fear in his eyes. "Who are you?" he asked. "Someone you should have never messed with." Kyle came through the door. "Trail's blocked. Those guards are heading down, but reinforcements could still come up the north route." "How long?" "Day and a half if they push hard, 2 days if they're careful." Elara looked at Marcus. "You're going to call them off." "I don't take orders from—" She put the rifle barrel against his shoulder. Not aggressive, just present. "You're going to call them off. You're going to tell them you made a mistake, that I died in the storm, that the case is closed." "Or what?" "Or I make sure you don't make it off this mountain." He studied her face. She let him look. Let him see what 2 months on the mountain had made her into. Someone who'd killed her first deer without flinching. Someone who'd stood in a blizzard and chosen the cold over shame. Someone who was done being afraid. Marcus reached slowly for his pocket, pulled out his phone. No signal. "Radio," Kyle said, pointing at the device on Marcus's belt. Marcus grabbed it, pressed the button. Static crackled. "This is Marcus. Cancel the operation. Return to base." "Sir?" A voice came through. "We're already mobilizing to such—" "I said cancel it. The subject is deceased. Confirm her death and close the case." Silence. Then, confirmed, returning to base. Marcus dropped the radio. Happy? Not even close. Elara stepped back. But it's a start. Now get out. The trail's blocked. Then you better find another way down. That's not my problem. Kale tossed him a pack. Emergency supplies, water, some food. Enough to get you to the valley if you're smart about it. I could die out there. Yeah, you could. Kale opened the door. Move. Marcus looked between them. Whatever he saw made him stand up and walk. He paused at the door. You were supposed to save your family, he said to Elara. I did, she said. I saved myself. He left. They watched him pick his way across the debris field and disappear into the trees. Elara's legs gave out. She sat down hard, the rifle clattering beside her. Her hands were shaking now, all the adrenaline catching up at once. Kale sat down next to her. Didn't touch her, just sat. You okay? He asked. No, yes, I don't know. She laughed, and it sounded a little crazy. I just threatened to kill someone. You did. And I meant it. I know. That should scare me. Does it? She thought about it. No, and that's what's scary. Kyle was quiet for a moment. You did good today. Stood your ground. Didn't run. That takes something most people don't have. What if more come? What if he doesn't keep his word? Then we deal with it, same as we deal with everything else up here. We? He looked at her. You think I'm letting you face that alone? I thought you didn't like people. I don't, but you're not people. You're... He stopped, started again. You're someone who chose this. The mountain, the hard parts. That's different. Different how? Different like I trust you to have my back. Different like I'd have yours. Something warm spread through Elara's chest. Not romantic, something deeper. Partnership. The kind forged in survival. Thank you, she said. For what? For not making me leave, for teaching me to fight. I didn't teach you to fight. I just taught you how to use what you already had. What did I have? Rage, fear, desperation, the kind of fuel that keeps you moving when everything else says quit. He stood up. Come on, we need to check the perimeter. Make sure there's no one else lurking. They spent the rest of the day securing the area. The avalanche had changed the landscape, created new approaches, and blocked old ones. They'd have to adjust their defenses, reset some traps, establish new routes. That night, sitting by the fire, Elara asked the question that had been burning in her chest since Marcus left. What if I'm becoming someone I don't recognize? Kale looked up from the map he was marking. Everyone changes. Question is whether you like the direction. I don't know yet. Then keep going until you do. She watched the flames. Down there, I was taught to be small, quiet, accommodating. Make yourself less so other people could be more. Up here? Up here I'm dangerous. Yeah, you are. That bother you? It should. But it doesn't. No, it doesn't. She met his eyes. What does that make me? Honest, Kyle said. Most people spend their whole lives pretending to be something they're not. You spent 2 months becoming something real. I'd take real over nice any day. Even if real is violent? Violence has its place. So does peace. Trick is knowing when to use which. Elara thought about Marcus's face when she'd pointed the rifle at him. The fear there. The realization that she'd stopped being a victim the moment she decided to stop accepting that role. I'm not going back, she said. Not to him. Not to that town. Not to that life. I know. Even if my father comes. Even if they try to drag me down legally or otherwise. I know. You'll help me? Kyle set down the map. I already said I would. I meant it. Why? You don't owe me anything. No, but I know what it's like to have people try to force you into a shape that doesn't fit. I know what it's like to choose the mountain over everything else. He looked out the window at the dark landscape. And I know what it's like to be alone up here, having someone to share it with. That's not nothing. Elara felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them back. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Trust someone. Rely on someone. I've spent so long learning to only count on myself. That's good. Keep doing that. But there's a difference between self-reliance and isolation. One keeps you alive, the other makes you forget why you wanted to live in the first place. She wanted to argue, couldn't find the words. Get some sleep, Kael said, going back to his map. Tomorrow we figure out what's next. But Elara couldn't sleep. She lay on the bedroll, staring at the ceiling, listening to the wind and thinking about everything that had changed. 2 months ago, she'd run into a blizzard to escape humiliation. Now she'd face down armed men without flinching. The woman she'd been wouldn't recognize the woman she'd become. And she was okay with that. 3 days after Marcus left, Kael woke her before dawn with a hand on her shoulder and a finger to his lips. Elara sat up slowly, reaching for the knife she now kept under her makeshift pillow. He pointed toward the door, then held up 2 fingers. 2 people. Outside. She moved quietly, pulling on her boots, grabbing her rifle. Kael was already at the window, peering through a gap in the boards they'd reinforced after the confrontation. Can you see them? She whispered. One by the tree line. Can't tell who. The other's circling around back. He moved to the rear window. Not tactical. Wrong movement pattern. Could be hunters. In April? Wrong season. He chambered around. Stay inside. Cover the front. I'll check the back. We should stay together. If they wanted us dead, we'd already be dead. This is something else. He paused at the back door. But keep that rifle ready anyway. He slipped outside. Elara positioned herself where she could see both the front approach and the door Kael had gone through. Her heart was hammering, but her hands were steady. Funny how quickly that had reversed. She heard voices, low, Kael's rumble and someone else, a man. Then the front door opened and Elara spun, rifle up. Her father stood in the doorway. He looked terrible. 20 pounds lighter than the last time she'd seen him. His suit hung loose. His face was gray. He raised his hands immediately when he saw the rifle. Elara, please, I just want to talk. She didn't lower the weapon. How did you find me? Marcus told me before he left town. Said you were up here with some survivalist. Said you were... He stopped, looked at her, really looked. Different. He had no right to tell you anything. He didn't. Not officially. But word gets around in a town that small. People talk. Her father took a careful step inside. Can you put the gun down? I'm not here to hurt you. Neither was Marcus. Look how that turned out. I'm not Marcus. No, you're worse. He wanted to own me for money. You sold me for it. She kept the rifle pointed at his chest. Why are you here? Because you're my daughter. That didn't matter 2 months ago. He flinched. You're right. It should have. I should have... His voice cracked. I made mistakes. Terrible mistakes. But I need you to understand, I understand perfectly. You were drowning in debt, and I was the life raft. Simple math. It wasn't that simple. Wasn't it? The back door opened. Kael came in with an older man, 50s, weathered, wearing clothes that had seen real work. Not tactical gear, not a suit, just worn canvas and leather. This is Tom Brennan, Kael said. Old friend. He guided your father up. Paid me well for it too, Tom added, looking between Elara and her father, though he didn't mention his daughter might shoot him. She has every right to, her father said quietly. Tom raised his eyebrows. Well then, I'll just wait outside while you folks sort this out. He looked at Kael. You still got that coffee? Same place. Good man. Tom left. Kael stayed leaning against the wall with his rifle in reach. Not threatening, just present. Elara finally lowered her weapon. You have 5 minutes. Talk. Her father looked around the cabin, the rough walls, the simple furniture, the supplies stacked in corners. This is where you've been living? This is where I've been surviving. There's a difference. Elara, you could have died up here. I could have died down there too, just slower, more publicly. She set the rifle down but kept it close. 4 minutes. He took a breath. The bank took the house 2 weeks ago. Everything's gone. I'm living in a rented room above the hardware store. I'm sorry. No, I'm not. That's your problem. I know. I'm not here asking for help. I'm here to... He rubbed his face. I'm here to apologize and to tell you that you were right to run. That surprised her. She'd expected blame, guilt, the same manipulation that had gotten her to that altar in the first place. Right to run, she repeated. I tried to trade you, like you were something I owned, like you were a solution to a problem instead of a person. He sat down heavily on the bench by the door. Your mother would have killed me if she'd seen it. Don't bring her into this. She made me promise before she died. Promise to take care of you, to let you choose your own life. And I broke that promise the second things got hard. You broke it long before that. You broke it every time you made a decision for me without asking what I wanted. He nodded. You're right. Stop agreeing with me. It doesn't fix anything. I know. Nothing fixes it. That's why I'm here. To tell you that you don't owe me anything. Not forgiveness, not help, nothing. You're free. Elara laughed. It came out bitter. I've been free for 2 months. I didn't need your permission. No, you took it yourself, the way you should have been able to do all along. He looked at her. You look different. So do you. I mean, you look strong, capable, like you know exactly who you are. I'm figuring it out. Good. That's good. He stood up. I'll go. I just needed to say it, to your face, that I'm sorry and that I'm proud of you for running, for surviving, for becoming whoever this is. He moved toward the door. Elara felt something twist in her chest. Not forgiveness, not yet, but something softer than the rage she'd been carrying. Dad, he stopped. Why did you really come up here? And don't give me the apology speech. What do you actually want? He turned back. Marcus is causing problems. Down in town. He's telling people you're mentally unstable, that you attacked him, that you need to be institutionalized for your own safety. Cale straightened. He agreed to drop it. He lied. Her father looked at Elara. He's filing legal papers, trying to get a court order to have you brought back, against your will if necessary. On what grounds? That you're a danger to yourself. That your father, me, signed over temporary guardianship while you were mentally unwell. That he has a responsibility to help you. Her father's hands clenched. It's all fake, all manipulation. But he's got lawyers and money, and I don't have either. So what? You came to warn me? I came to tell you that you need to fight this differently. Not with guns, with law. With documentation that you're of sound mind and acting of your own free will. How am I supposed to do that from up here? You come down. You talk to a judge. You make it official that you're rejecting any guardianship, any claims Marcus or anyone else has on you. He looked exhausted. I know you don't want to go back. I know what it cost you to leave. But if you don't do this, he's going to use the law to drag you back anyway. Elara felt cold. When's the hearing? 10 days. And if I don't show? Then Marcus gets what he wants by default. The court rules in his favor, and then he can legally have you removed from this mountain. Cale spoke up. They'd have to find her first. They will, eventually. And when they do, it'll be worse than if she'd just complied. Her father looked at Elara. I'm not telling you what to do. I gave up that right. I'm just telling you the reality. You want to stay free, you have to go back long enough to make it official. Elara wanted to scream. She'd escaped. She'd built something here. And now the world she'd left behind was reaching up to drag her back. I need to think, she said. You have 10 days. Tom knows the route down. He can guide you when you're ready. Her father moved to the door again. Stopped. For what it's worth, I hope you don't come back. Not to stay. I hope you choose this. Choose yourself and never look back. That's the only way I'll know I didn't completely destroy you. He left. Through the window, Elara watched him walk away with Tom, two figures getting smaller against the snow. Kyle came to stand beside her. What are you going to do? I don't know. Want my opinion? Not really, but you'll give it anyway. Yeah. He crossed his arms. Your father's right. If you stay up here hiding, Marcus wins. You become the story he's telling, the crazy woman who ran away and needs to be saved from herself. But if you go down there, face him in a courtroom, make it clear you're in control of your own life. That's different. What if they don't believe me? Then you make them believe you. You show them exactly what you've become. Someone who survived 2 months on a mountain. Someone who stood down armed men. Someone who knows her own mind. I don't want to see those people again, the ones who laughed. So don't. Go in, do what needs doing, get out. You don't owe them explanations or apologies or anything else. Elara pressed her forehead against the cold glass. What if I go down there and I can't come back? What do you mean? What if being there, being in that world again, what if it changes me back? What if I lose whatever I found up here? Kale was quiet for a moment. Then that would mean this wasn't real. Whatever you built up here, whatever you became, if it can't survive 10 days in town, it wasn't strong enough to matter. She turned to look at him. That's harsh. That's true. Real change doesn't disappear the second things get hard. It sticks. It becomes part of who you are. You sound pretty confident. I've seen you kill a deer without flinching. I've seen you face down armed men. I've seen you wake up every morning for 2 months and do the work without complaining. That's not performance. That's character. He moved to the fire, started building it back up. But it's your choice. Always your choice. You want to stay up here and fight them when they come. If they come, I'll stand with you. You want to go down there and end this legally, I'll help you prepare. Either way, I've got your back. Why? Why what? Why do you care? You said you came up here to get away from people. I'm people. Why not just let me go? Kale was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was different, softer. Because when my marriage fell apart, when I realized I'd chosen this mountain over everything else in my life, I told myself it didn't matter, that I was better off alone, that people were just complications I didn't need. And I believed that for 3 years, right up until you showed up half frozen in a wedding dress. He looked at her. You reminded me that choosing solitude and accepting loneliness aren't the same thing. I chose this place because I love it, but I was lonely anyway. And having you here, teaching you, working with you, just having someone to talk to who understands why this matters, it's been good. Elara felt her throat tighten. I'm scared. Of what? That if I go down there, I'll remember all the reasons I wanted to leave, and I won't be strong enough to come back. Then don't go alone. She looked at him sharply. You'd come with me? Not into town. I meant what I said. I'm done with that world. But I could get you to the edge. Wait for you. Make sure you have a way back. He stirred the fire. Insurance, in case you need it. Something loosened in her chest. You do that? Someone taught me that you don't abandon people who are trying to become something better. Least I can do is honor that. Elara moved to the window again, looked out at the mountain, at the wilderness that had stripped her down and rebuilt her, at the place that felt more like home than anywhere she'd ever lived. If I do this, she said slowly, if I go back and face him, I need to do it my way. Not as the person they remember, as who I am now, which is someone who doesn't apologize for taking up space, someone who doesn't need permission to exist, someone who's done being afraid. She turned to face him. Can you help me with that? I already have been. I mean specifically, for this, I need to walk into that courtroom looking like I could burn the whole place down if I wanted to. I need them to see what I've become. Kale smiled. It was a rare thing on his face. Yeah, I can help with that. They spent the next week preparing. Not just physically, though Kyle made sure she could navigate the descent blindfolded, but mentally. He drilled her on staying calm under pressure, on not reacting to provocation, on presenting strength without aggression. Marcus will try to get under your skin, Kyle said one night. He'll say things designed to make you look unstable, emotional, out of control. So I stay cold. No, you stay grounded. There's a difference. Cold makes you look like you don't care. Grounded means you care, but you're in control of it. How do I do that? You remember what you survived to get here. Every time he tries to shake you, you remember that blizzard, that first deer, those armed men. You remember that you're someone who does hard things and doesn't break. She practiced her story, stripped of emotion, just facts. She left town of her own free will. She's been living on the mountain, supporting herself, making her own decisions. She's of sound mind. She rejects any claim of guardianship. She wants to be left alone. Keep it simple, Kyle advised. Don't explain. Don't justify. Just state facts and let them speak for themselves. What if the judge doesn't believe me? Then you make him believe you. Look him in the eye. Don't waver. Don't apologize. You've got nothing to apologize for. On the 8th day, Tom Brennan came back up the mountain. Court's in 2 days, he said. If you're coming, we need to leave tomorrow morning. Trail's clear, but it's still a hard 8 hours down. Elara looked at Kyle. He nodded. I'm coming, she said. That night she couldn't sleep. She lay on the bedroll, staring at the ceiling, listening to the wind. In 2 days, she'd be face to face with Marcus again, with her father, with a whole town that thought they knew who she was. You're thinking too loud, Kyle said from his cot. Sorry. Don't be. Just talk to me. What's going on in your head? I'm afraid I'll get down there and forget how to be this person, the one I am up here. You won't. How do you know? Because being up here didn't make you into someone new. It just burned away everything that wasn't you. The real you was always there. The mountain just cleared away the noise so you could hear her. Elara thought about that. What if she's not strong enough? She stood down armed men. She's strong enough. That was different. That was survival. This is survival too, just a different kind. He sat up. Look, you want the truth? You're going to walk into that courtroom and some people are going to laugh at you. Some are going to judge you. Some are going to think you're exactly what Marcus says you are. And none of that matters. So how does it not matter? Because their opinion of you isn't your responsibility. Your responsibility is to know who you are and stand in that truth. Everyone else can catch up or get left behind. You make it sound easy. It's not easy. It's simple. Simple and easy aren't the same thing. He lay back down. Elara listened to his breathing even out. Eventually, she slept. They left at dawn. Tom led the way, Kyle behind him, Elara bringing up the rear. The descent was easier than the climb had been 2 months ago, but only because now she knew what she was doing. She knew how to read the trail, how to distribute her weight, how to move efficiently. Halfway down, Kyle stopped and pointed. See that? A wolf, watching them from a distance. Just one. Probably a scout from a larger pack. Yeah, Elara said. You remember the first time I showed you wolves? What I told you? That they're stronger and faster. That my only advantage is my brain. You scared of it? She looked at the wolf, looked at its lean muscle, its intelligent eyes, its perfect adaptation to this environment. No. Good, because you're not prey anymore. Haven't been for a while. The wolf watched them a moment longer, then disappeared into the trees. They made it to the valley by late afternoon. Tom had arranged for them to stay at a small hunting lodge on the outskirts of town, far enough that Elara wouldn't run into anyone, close enough that she could get to the courthouse tomorrow. I'll be here, Kyle said when they arrived. Soon as you're done, we head back up. What if it takes longer than a day? Then I'll wait longer than a day. You hate towns. I hate a lot of things. Doesn't mean I won't tolerate them when it matters. That night, alone in the lodge room, Tom had gotten her own space. Elara took a shower for the first time in 2 months. Hot water, soap, steam. It should have felt amazing. Instead, it felt wrong. Too soft. Too easy. She caught sight of herself in the mirror and stopped. The woman looking back wasn't the one who'd run from that church. This woman was lean, hard. Her arms showed muscle. Her face was weathered. Her eyes were different. Not haunted anymore. Just clear. She barely recognized herself. Good, she thought. The next morning she dressed in the clothes Tom had brought. Simple, clean, nothing fancy. She braided her hair back the way Kyle had taught her, practical and tight. No jewelry, no makeup. Just herself. Tom drove her to the courthouse. Kyle stayed at the lodge. He'd meant what he said about not going into town. You've got this, Tom said when they pulled up. I've seen a lot of people break on that mountain. You're not one of them. You barely know me. I know enough. You survived 2 months with Kyle. That tells me everything I need to know. He nodded toward the building. Go show them what you're made of. Elara got out of the truck, looked up at the courthouse. It was smaller than she remembered, less imposing. She walked up the steps and through the doors. The courtroom was half full. She recognized faces, neighbors, people from the church, townspeople who'd watched her humiliation and probably told the story a dozen times since. Her father was there, sitting in the back. He looked up when she came in, and something like relief crossed his face. Marcus was at the front table with two lawyers. He turned when the door opened. When he saw her, his expression flickered. Surprise, then something else. Calculation. He'd been expecting the old Elara, the one who'd been afraid, the one who could be manipulated. She could see him recalibrating. Good. Let him be off balance for once. The judge came in, an older woman, severe, with glasses perched on her nose. All rise. Everyone stood. Be seated. The judge looked at her notes. Case number 4721. Marcus Hendricks versus Elara Vance. Petition for emergency guardianship based on mental incapacity. She looked up. Miss Vance, you're present. That's good. Saves us time. One of Marcus's lawyers stood. Your Honor, we'd like to present evidence that you'll get your turn. The judge looked at Elara. Miss Vance, approach the bench. Elara walked forward. Every eye in the room on her. She kept her breathing steady. Remembered Kael's words. Grounded, not cold. Miss Vance, the judge said, Mr. Hendricks has filed a petition claiming you're mentally unwell and a danger to yourself. He's asking for temporary guardianship to ensure your safety. What do you have to say about that? Elara looked at Marcus, then at the judge. I say he's lying. A murmur went through the courtroom. The judge raised her hand for silence. Explain. 2 months ago, I made a choice. I left town. I left a situation that was harming me. I've been living independently since then. I'm in sound mind. I make my own decisions. And I reject any claim that Marcus Hendricks or anyone else has the right to control my life. Where have you been living? On the mountain, in a cabin, supporting myself. Alone? With someone who taught me how to survive there. His name is Kael Rourke, former forest ranger. Marcus's lawyer jumped in. Your Honor, living alone on a mountain for 2 months, abandoning all social contact, rejecting family support. This is exactly the kind of behavior that demonstrates mental instability. I didn't abandon anything, Elara said, her voice level. I left a situation where I was being traded like property to settle someone else's debt. That's not mental illness, that's self-preservation. You ran away from your own wedding, the lawyer pressed. In a blizzard, you could have died. I almost did, but I didn't. I survived. I learned. I grew. None of that requires guardianship. The judge studied her. You look different from your photos, Miss Vance. I am different. How so? Elara met her eyes. I know who I am now. I know what I'm worth. And I know I don't need anyone's permission to exist. The judge leaned back in her chair, studying Elara over the rim of her glasses. The courtroom had gone completely silent, everyone waiting to see what would happen next. Elara could feel the weight of all those eyes on her, but it felt different from the wedding. Then, she'd been drowning under the attention. Now, she stood steady under it. Mr. Hendricks, you have evidence to present? The judge asked. Marcus stood, smoothing his suit with practiced precision. He looked every inch the concerned citizen, the responsible adult trying to help a troubled young woman. It was a performance Elara recognized now. She'd spent enough time performing herself to know what it looked like. Your Honor, I have documentation here showing Miss Vance's erratic behavior leading up to her disappearance. He gestured to his lawyer, who stepped forward with a thick folder. Text messages where she expressed feelings of hopelessness. Statements from witnesses about her emotional state. Medical records showing she'd stopped eating regularly in the weeks before the wedding. May I see those? The judge asked. Marcus's lawyer handed over the folder with a reverent seriousness, like he was presenting crucial evidence in a murder trial. The judge flipped through it, her expression unreadable. The silence stretched out. Someone in the gallery coughed. Elara felt her pulse quicken but forced herself to stay calm. She'd expected this. Kael had warned her that Marcus would try to paint her as unstable, use her own words and actions against her. The trick was not to react, not to give him the satisfaction of seeing her rattled. These messages, the judge said finally, are from before the wedding? Yes, Your Honor. They show a pattern of emotional distress extending back several months, increasing isolation, difficulty sleeping, loss of appetite, classic signs of a depressive episode. They show a woman trapped in a situation she didn't want, Elara said, her voice level. That's not mental illness. That's being honest about how I felt. The judge looked at her. You wrote, and I quote, I don't know how much longer I can do this. What did you mean by that, Miss Vance? Elara met her eyes steadily. I meant I couldn't keep pretending to be happy about a marriage I didn't want. I couldn't keep being someone I wasn't just to make other people comfortable. I couldn't keep living a life that was suffocating me. And running into a blizzard was your solution? No, leaving was my solution. The blizzard was just what was happening at the time. I didn't plan it. I didn't think about it. I just knew I had to go. Marcus's lawyer jumped in, his voice smooth and reasonable. Your Honor, that's exactly what we're talking about. Normal people don't make those kinds of choices. Normal people ask for help. They reach out to family, to friends, to professionals. They don't disappear into the wilderness for 2 months without a word to anyone. Normal people, Elara said, her voice sharper now, don't get sold by their fathers to pay off debt. Normal people don't get humiliated in front of 300 witnesses and expected to just accept it and move on. Normal people don't have their private lives projected on a screen at their own wedding. I did what I had to do to survive. By nearly dying. By choosing something different, even if it was dangerous, even if it was hard. She turned to look directly at Marcus. I chose the unknown over humiliation. I chose freezing to death over living a lie. And I'd make the same choice again. A murmur went through the courtroom. The judge raised her hand for silence. Miss Vance, I need you to answer something honestly. The judge's voice was stern but not unkind. Are you currently taking any medication? Seen any mental health professionals? No? Have you in the past? No. Do you feel you need to? Elara thought about it, really thought about it. This wasn't a question to rush through. I don't know. Maybe someday I will. Maybe what I've been through will catch up with me and I'll need help processing it. But right now, in this moment, I'm clear. I know what I want. I know what I don't want. And I know I don't need Marcus Hendricks or anyone else making decisions for me. What do you want, Miss Vance? To be left alone. To live my life on my own terms. To build something that's mine. To never have to see this man again or answer to anyone about the choices I make for myself. Marcus finally spoke directly, his voice dripping with false concern. Elara, please, I'm trying to help you. Everything I've done has been because I care about your well-being. When you disappeared, I was terrified. I thought you were dead. I spent weeks searching, trying to find you, trying to make sure you were safe. She turned to look at him, and for a moment she saw him as he really was. Not the confident businessman, not the concerned ex-fiancé, but a small man who couldn't handle losing control. You showed private photos of me to 300 people. You exposed my personal life to strangers. You tried to humiliate me into submission. You hired armed men to drag me off a mountain against my will. That's not care. That's not concern. That's control dressed up in nice words. I made a mistake at the wedding. I admit that. I was angry and I acted rashly, but everything since then has been genuine concern. You're lying, Elara's voice cut through his like a knife. You came up that mountain because you couldn't stand losing. Because I was supposed to be your acquisition and I slipped away. Because in your mind, you'd bought me fair and square and I had no right to refuse. This guardianship petition isn't about my safety. It's about your ego. It's about making sure I can't embarrass you again by choosing myself over you. That's not true. Then explain the contract, the one you had my father sign, the one that treated me like property with a price tag. Marcus's face tightened. A muscle in his jaw jumped. That was a standard prenuptial agreement, nothing unusual about it. That gave you control of my father's assets in exchange for clearing his debt. With me as the collateral. I've seen it. My father showed me. She turned to the judge. I have a copy if you want to see it, Your Honor. The judge's eyebrows rose. I would very much like to see it. Elara pulled the folded papers from her pocket. She'd asked Tom to get them from her father the night before the hearing. She'd spent hours reading through them, making sure she understood every clause, every implication. The judge took them, read through them slowly, her expression growing colder with each page. The silence in the courtroom was absolute. Elara could hear someone breathing heavily in the back row, could hear the clock on the wall ticking, could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. Mr. Hendricks, the judge said finally, her voice like ice. This is highly irregular. It's completely legal, Your Honor. I had 3 lawyers review it. Legal and ethical aren't always the same thing. She set the papers down with deliberate care. This contract essentially treats Miss Vance as an asset transfer. It stipulates that in exchange for debt forgiveness, her father agrees to ensure she marries you and that she will have no claim to any property or assets acquired during the marriage. It even includes a clause about her behavior and appearance. I'm inclined to agree with Miss Vance's characterization that this is less a prenuptial agreement and more a bill of sale. Marcus's lawyer stood quickly, sensing his case crumbling. Your Honor, regardless of the contract's wording, which again is entirely legal, the facts remain. Miss Vance abandoned her responsibilities, put herself in extreme danger, and has been living in isolation for an extended period. These are all warning signs of someone who is not thinking clearly, someone who needs intervention. Or, the judge said dryly, they're signs of someone making an unconventional choice about how to live her life. Someone exercising her right to self-determination in a way that doesn't conform to societal expectations. She looked at Elara. How old are you, Miss Vance? 26. An adult, fully capable of making your own decisions, even ones that other people might find unusual or inadvisable. She turned back to Marcus. Mr. Hendricks, I'm not seeing evidence here of mental incapacity. I'm seeing evidence of a woman who made a difficult choice under extreme pressure. That's not grounds for guardianship. That's grounds for respecting her autonomy. Your Honor, please, Marcus started. I'm denying your petition. The judge's voice was final. Miss Vance is clearly of sound mind and capable of self-determination. This court will not strip her of her autonomy based on the evidence presented here today. Furthermore, I'm issuing a restraining order. Mr. Hendricks, you are to have no contact with Miss Vance. No phone calls, no letters, no third-party communication. You are not to come within 500 feet of her. Do you understand? Marcus's face went red. This is outrageous. I have rights. And Miss Vance has the right to live her life without harassment from someone who clearly views her as property rather than a person. The judge banged her gavel. Case dismissed. This court is adjourned. The courtroom erupted. People talking, whispering, some standing to get a better look. Marcus stood frozen, his carefully constructed case falling apart around him. His lawyers were already packing up, clearly done with a losing battle and an increasingly problematic client. Elara felt something release in her chest. Not relief exactly. Something bigger. Validation. Recognition. The law had just acknowledged what she'd fought so hard to prove, that she belonged to herself and no one else, that her choices were her own, that she had the right to live differently even if it made other people uncomfortable. Miss Vance. The judge's voice cut through the noise. A word of advice, if you'll hear it. Elara turned back. Yes, Your Honor. What you did took tremendous courage. Walking away from a life that was harming you, even when it meant walking into danger, that's not easy. But courage without caution can still get you killed. The mountain is beautiful, but it's also unforgiving. Be careful out there. Be smart. And don't let pride keep you from asking for help if you need it. I will be careful, Your Honor. I've had a good teacher. The judge nodded, something that might have been approval crossing her face. Good. Then I wish you well, Miss Vance. Live your life on your own terms. Thank you. I intend to. Elara walked out of the courtroom with her head high. Behind her, she heard Marcus trying to argue with his lawyers, heard people in the gallery starting to gossip, heard her father's footsteps following her out. Elara, wait! She stopped in the hallway, turned. Her father looked older somehow. The weight he'd lost made his face gaunt. His suit, the same one he'd worn to the wedding, hung loose on his frame. You won, he said quietly. I know. I'm proud of you, for standing up for yourself, for not backing down even when he tried to make you look crazy. You already said that, on the mountain. I meant it then. I mean it now. I don't think I can say it enough. He took a breath. I know you don't owe me anything, but I want you to know I'm trying to fix things. Not with you. I know that's probably broken beyond repair, but with myself. I started going to meetings for gambling. That's how the debt started, and I never told you, never told anyone, just kept digging the hole deeper. Elara studied him. How long have you been going? 3 months. Since 2 weeks after you left. After Marcus came back without you, and I realized what I'd almost done. What I'd tried to do. And it's hard. Every day is hard. But I'm doing it. I'm being honest about it, about all of it. That's good. I hope it helps. Will you ever forgive me? She thought about it, really thought about it. On the mountain, Kael had taught her that holding on to anger was like carrying extra weight on a long hike. Eventually it would slow you down, tire you out, maybe even kill you. But letting it go didn't mean forgetting, didn't mean pretending it hadn't happened. I don't know, she said honestly. Maybe, someday. But not because you need it or because you deserve it. Because I don't want to carry the anger anymore. It's too heavy. It takes up space I need for other things. That's fair. That's more than fair. I need to go. Someone's waiting for me. Her father nodded. The mountain man? Kael? Yeah. Is he good to you? The question almost made her laugh. He taught me how to survive, how to be strong, how to trust myself, how to do hard things without complaining. So yeah, he's good to me. Better than good. Then I'm glad you have that you found someone who sees your worth. He reached out like he might hug her, then thought better of it, dropped his hand. Take care of yourself up there. And if you ever need anything, money, supplies, anything, you let Tom know and I'll make sure you get it. I can take care of myself. I know you can. But sometimes people who can take care of themselves still deserve help, still deserve to know someone's in their corner. Elara felt her throat tighten. Thanks, Dad. Thank you for giving me a chance to be better, even if it's too late for us. She walked away, didn't look back. Tom was waiting outside with the truck, leaning against the driver's side door and smoking a cigarette. How'd it go? He asked, stubbing it out when he saw her. I won. Restraining order and everything. Never doubted it for a second. He opened the door for her. You hungry? We've got time before we need to head back. No, I just want to go, want to get back to the mountain. Fair enough. Let's get you home then. They drove to the lodge. Kael was outside, pacing back and forth in front of the building like a caged animal. When he saw the truck, he stopped. Waited. His whole body tense. Elara got out, walked over to him. Well? He asked. Case dismissed. Restraining order issued. I'm free. Completely free. Something that might have been a smile crossed his face, rare as snow in summer. Good. That's good. Let's get out of here. You really hate it down here, don't you? More than you know. Too many people, too much noise, too much of everything. He looked around at the buildings, the paved roads, the power lines. Feels like drowning. Then let's go home. They packed fast. Tom drove them back to the trailhead, the truck rattling over poorly maintained roads. Before they got out, he turned to Elara. You need anything down here, you let me know. And I mean anything. Supplies, information, legal help, whatever. I'm not just a guide. I'm a friend. You hear me? I hear you. Thank you, Tom. For everything. You earned it. Not many people could do what you did today. Most people would have backed down, let Marcus steamroll them just to avoid the fight. He looked at Kael. You take care of her. She takes care of herself, Kael said. I just make sure she's got what she needs to do it. That works too. You two are good for each other. Anyone can see that. They shouldered their packs and started up the trail. The first mile was easy, familiar ground. But as they climbed higher, Elara felt something settling in her chest. Coming home. This mountain, this wilderness, this hard life. It was home in a way nothing else had ever been. The trail felt different than it had 2 months ago. Then, she'd been running. Now, she was returning. By choice. Because this was where she wanted to be. You're quiet, Kael said when they stopped for water halfway up. Just thinking. About how different this is from the last time I walked this trail. How different I am. You were wearing a wedding dress and half frozen to death. I'd say that's pretty different. She laughed. That's not what I meant. I know, but it's still true. He took a long drink from his canteen. You feel different? Yeah. Stronger. More solid. Like, I know who I am now, and I'm not apologizing for it. Good. That's exactly how you should feel. They hiked in comfortable silence for another hour. The sun was starting to set by the time they reached the cabin, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple. Elara dropped her pack on the porch and just stood there, breathing in the cold air, the pine smell, the silence that was never really silent if you knew how to listen. You okay? Kyle asked. Better than okay. I feel like I can finally breathe, like there was this weight pressing on my chest for months, years maybe, and it's finally gone. You regret going down? No, I needed to do that, to face him, to prove to myself that I could stand in that room with all those people judging me and not break, not run. She looked at him. But I'm glad to be back. This is where I belong. Yeah, me too. They unpacked and settled in. Everything was exactly as they'd left it. The fire pit cold, the supplies neatly stored, the traps waiting to be checked. Kale built up the fire while Elara started organizing their gear. What's the plan for tomorrow? She asked. Check the traps, haul water, start restocking the root cellar for winter. It's never too early. He looked at her. You ready to get back to work? I've been ready since we left. Sitting around that lodge was killing me. Yeah, I could tell. You were getting twitchy. I wasn't twitchy. You reorganized Tom's entire supply cabinet. It was a mess. Someone had to do it. Kyle grinned. Sure. That's why you did it. They fell back into the routine of mountain life. But something had shifted. Before, Elara had been a student, learning to survive under Kyle's instruction. Now she was a partner. She knew the work, knew the rhythm, knew her own capabilities. They moved together with an efficiency that came from trust and experience. A week after they got back, they were checking the north trap line when Elara spotted something in the distance. Smoke. Too much smoke to be a campfire. You see that? She asked. Kale followed her gaze. Yeah. Forest fire maybe. Or someone burning trash. Hard to tell from here. Should we check it out? Probably smart. Last thing we need is a fire spreading this direction. They hiked toward the smoke, moving carefully through the dense forest. As they got closer, Elara could hear voices. Multiple people. She signaled to Kyle and they approached more cautiously. Through the trees, they could see a group of teenagers, maybe 5 or 6 of them, gathered around a fire that was way too big for safety. They had tents set up, supplies scattered everywhere, and were passing around what was probably alcohol. Kids, Kyle muttered. Of course it's kids. One of them spotted them and jumped up. Who's there? Kale stepped into the clearing. Someone who knows you're being idiots. You know there's a fire ban right now? The kids looked at each other. One of them, a boy maybe 17, stepped forward. We didn't see any signs. That's because you're 3 miles off the main trail in restricted territory. What are you doing up here? Camping. It's a free country. It's federal land with regulations, and you're breaking about 6 of them. Kale gestured at the fire. That thing spreads, you could burn down 50 square miles, kill wildlife, destroy habitat, maybe even kill yourselves. We know what we're doing, another kid said. A girl, drunk and belligerent. Clearly you don't, or you wouldn't have a fire this size in the middle of fire season. Elara stepped forward. Look, we're not trying to get you in trouble, but you need to put that out now and pack up. This isn't safe. Who are you? His girlfriend? I'm someone who lives up here, who knows what happens when fires get out of control. And trust me, you don't want to find out. The kids looked at each other, having some kind of silent conversation. Finally, the first boy shrugged. Fine, whatever, we'll put it out. They started dousing the fire with water from their bottles. It took a while. They'd built it way too big, but eventually it was out. Kale made them scatter the ashes and make sure nothing was still smoldering. You kids got a way back down? He asked. Yeah, we've got a map. You know how to use it? Silence. Kyle sighed. Of course you don't. All right, pack up your gear. We'll get you pointed in the right direction. It took another hour to get them organized and headed back toward the main trail. As they were leaving, the girl who'd been belligerent earlier turned back. Sorry for being rude. And for the fire, Elara nodded. Just be more careful. The mountain doesn't forgive mistakes. Is that where you live? On the mountain? Yeah. By choice? Definitely by choice. The girl looked at her with something like curiosity. That's cool. Like, really cool. After they were gone, Kyle turned to Elara. You were good with them. Patient. They're just kids being stupid. We were all stupid once. Some of us more than others. You ever do anything that dumb? Worse, much worse. He started walking back toward the cabin. When I was 22, I went into the backcountry for a week with basically no supplies. Thought I could just live off the land. Nearly died. Forest ranger found me on day 5, dehydrated and starving. What did he do? Yelled at me for 20 minutes, then made me work with him for the rest of the season to teach me how not to be an idiot. Best thing that ever happened to me. Is that why you became a ranger? Part of it. Figured if someone saved my life, least I could do was pay it forward. They walked in comfortable silence. When they got back to the cabin, Elara started making dinner while Kyle sharpened tools. The work was mindless, meditative. This was what her life was now. Simple, hard, real. Can I ask you something? She said after a while. You're going to anyway. Why'd you really come down to that lodge? You could have just sent Tom to check on me. Could have waited up here? Cale was quiet for a long time, working the whetstone over the blade with steady strokes. Because I wanted to make sure you came back. You thought I might not? I thought you might remember how easy it is down there, how soft, running water and electricity and grocery stores, all the things that make life comfortable, and I thought you might decide the mountain wasn't worth the work. And if I had, then I would have accepted it, let you go, understood that some people are meant for this life and some aren't. He tested the blade's edge. But I would have missed you. It was the most honest thing he'd ever said to her. Elara felt warmth spread through her chest, settling around her heart. I'm not going anywhere, she said. This is home. She stopped, started again. This is where I belong. Good. Because I like having you here. That almost sounded like a compliment. Don't let it go to your head. But he was smiling when he said it. The days turned to weeks. They worked together with an easy rhythm, checking traps, hunting, gathering, preparing for the next winter that was always just around the corner. Elara got stronger, faster, more confident. She could navigate the mountain in the dark now, could track animals by the smallest signs, could predict the weather by the smell of the air and the behavior of the birds. One afternoon in late June, they were sitting outside the cabin mending gear when Tom appeared on the trail. He wasn't supposed to come up for another 2 weeks. Tom, Cale said, standing. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Just thought you'd want to know. Marcus left town, week ago. Packed up everything and disappeared in the middle of the night. Elara felt her stomach clench. Left? Where? Nobody knows. Some people say the city. Others say he left the state entirely. But there are rumors. What kind of rumors? Legal troubles. Something about fraud. Multiple complaints filed against him for business practices. The DA started investigating. Tom sat down on the bench. Could be he ran before charges were filed. Could be coincidence. Either way, he's gone. For good? Seems like it. He sold his properties, closed his accounts, left no forwarding address. If he's planning to come back, he's doing a terrible job of it. Elara sat back down slowly. Marcus was gone. Really gone. The threat that had been hanging over her, the possibility that he might find some other way to come after her, it was over. You okay? Cale asked quietly. Yeah, I think I am. It's just, I didn't realize how much space he was still taking up in my head until right now. Tom pulled out an envelope. Also brought you this. From your father. Elara took it. Inside was a letter and another envelope. She opened the letter first. Elara. It read in her father's careful handwriting. The house sold. After the bank took it, they auctioned it off for more than the debt. The excess, about $40,000, legally belongs to you. I know you probably don't want anything from that life, but it's yours. Do with it what you want. Keep it, burn it, donate it. Your choice. I'm enclosing the check. Also want you to know I'm doing better. 4 months sober. Got a job managing the hardware store. It's not much, but it's honest work and I can pay my own way. Your father. She opened the second envelope. A check for $40,000. What is it? Kyle asked. Money from the house sale. My father says it's mine. What are you going to do with it? Elara stared at the check. $40,000. Money that represented everything her old life had been about. Debt, obligation, being a solution to someone else's problem. I don't know yet, she said slowly. Part of me wants to tear it up, just be done with it completely. That would be wasteful, Tom said. Money's just a tool, it's what you do with it that matters. What would you do with it? Elara asked Kyle. He thought about it. Probably use some to improve the cabin, make it more sustainable. Solar panels maybe, or a better water system. The rest, he shrugged. Put it somewhere you can forget about it. Emergency fund. You never know when you might need it. Or, Tom added, use it for something good, something that would have helped you when you needed it. Elara thought about the shelter she'd read about once, for women leaving bad situations. Thought about how hard it was to leave when you had nothing, nowhere to go, no resources. I think I know what to do with it, she said. Over the next few weeks, she worked with Tom to set up donations to 3 different organizations: women's shelters, mental health services, a program that helped people escape debt. She kept $5,000 for cabin improvements and emergencies. The rest she gave away. You sure about this? Tom asked when she signed the final papers. That's a lot of money to just give away. I'm sure I don't need it. And maybe it'll help someone else get out of a situation like mine. Make it a little easier for them to choose themselves. When it was done, she felt lighter. The last tie to her old life, severed. Now there was just the mountain, the work, the life she was building. Summer passed. They expanded the trapline, built a second storage cache farther up the mountain, started talking about long-term plans. Not just surviving winter to winter, but building something that would last. We should make this official, Kyle said one night. The land. Register it properly so no one can come up here and try to claim it. Can we do that? Tom knows a lawyer. We can figure it out. But if we're going to do it, we do it right. As partners. Partners? You've been here long enough. Earned your place. This land is as much yours as mine now. Elara felt her throat tighten. You mean that? I don't say things I don't mean. You know that by now. They made it official in August. Tom brought up the papers. A formal partnership agreement, land registration, all the legal documentation that said this place was theirs. Both of them. Equal shares. You sure about this? Kyle asked before they signed, pen hovering over the paper. Once it's done, you're tied to this mountain, to this life, to me and whatever that means. There's no going back. Elara took the pen from his hand and signed her name. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. He signed below her name, their signatures side by side, making it real, making it permanent. That night they celebrated with whiskey Tom had brought up. It was terrible whiskey, cheap and harsh, but they drank it anyway, sitting by the fire and watching the stars. To partnerships, Kyle said, raising his cup. To finding where you belong, Elara added, to building something that lasts. They drank. The fire crackled. Outside, the forest was alive with sound. Wind in the trees, animals moving through the darkness, the mountain breathing around them. You ever regret it? Kyle asked after a while. Running, coming up here, choosing this life over the one you could have had. Elara thought about the wedding dress, soaked and torn, thought about the laughter in the church, thought about the blizzard and the cold and the moment she'd thought she might die, thought about every hard day since, every challenge, every moment she'd wanted to quit. Then she thought about her first successful hunt. Her first fire started in wet conditions. The moment she'd realized she could navigate the mountain on her own. The feeling of standing in that courtroom and claiming her own life. The partnership papers with both their names. Not for a second, she said. This is the first time in my life I felt like myself. Like I'm not performing or pretending or trying to be what someone else needs. I'm just me. And that's enough. More than enough. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that only comes from really knowing someone, from trusting them with your life day after day in a place that didn't forgive mistakes. Another year passed, then another. The seasons cycled through their familiar patterns. Elara learned more skills, became more capable, more confident. She could read the mountain now like Kyle did, could sense storms coming before they appeared, could track animals through terrain that looked empty to untrained eyes. She also learned to let people in, at least a little. Tom became more than a supplier. He was a friend, someone who checked in regularly and actually cared about the answer. Her father came up twice a year, never staying long, always respecting boundaries. Their relationship rebuilt slowly, carefully, into something new. Not what it had been, but something honest. He stayed sober, got promoted at the hardware store, started dating someone, a quiet woman who made him laugh. "You look happy," Elara told him during one visit. "I am. First time in years, maybe ever, that I can say that and mean it." He looked around the cabin. "You look happy too, really happy, not just pretending." "I am." "Good. That's all I wanted for you, all your mother would have wanted." And Kyle became more than a teacher or a partner. He became the person who knew her best, who'd seen her at her absolute worst and her best and hadn't left, who challenged her when she needed it and supported her when she didn't, who made her laugh with his dry humor and taught her things she never thought she'd need to know and stood beside her through everything. They never defined what they were to each other. Didn't need to. It was beyond definition, beyond categories. Just two people who'd chosen the same hard path and walked it together, day after day, building something real out of shared work and mutual respect and the kind of trust that only came from surviving together. In the third year, Sarah visited. She was 17, tall and serious, and so much like Kyle it was almost painful. She stayed for 2 weeks, and Elara watched Kyle transform into someone she'd never seen, nervous, careful, desperate to get it right. "Does he always work this hard?" Sarah asked one afternoon when Kyle was out checking traps. "Yes, but he's working harder because you're here. Wants to show you this matters, that he matters." "Does he think I don't know that?" "I think he's afraid you forgot." Sarah was quiet for a moment. "I didn't forget. I was angry for a long time, but I didn't forget." By the end of her visit, something had eased between them. They weren't fixed. That would take more time. But they were talking, really talking, making plans for her to visit again next summer. "Thank you," Kyle said after she left, "for being here, for showing her that this life isn't just running away, that it's running toward something." "She's a good kid. You should be proud." "I am, and I'm grateful for all of it, for you." It was the closest he'd ever come to saying what they both felt but never named. Elara let it sit between them, warm and true. 4 years after she'd run up that mountain in a wedding dress, 4 years since she'd chosen the unknown over humiliation, Elara stood at the same clearing where Kyle had first found her and realized she couldn't remember what she'd been so afraid of. The woman who'd stood at that altar, who'd let other people define her worth, who'd thought she needed permission to exist, that woman was gone. Not erased, but transformed, changed into someone stronger, someone real. In her place was someone who could survive a blizzard, who could field dress a deer without flinching, who could face down armed men with a rifle and mean it, who could stand in a courtroom and claim her own life, who could build a partnership based on trust and work and shared purpose, who knew her own worth and didn't need anyone else to validate it. The mountain had stripped away everything she wasn't and revealed everything she was. Strong, capable, free, real. "What are you thinking about?" Kyle asked, coming up beside her. "That I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." "Yeah, me too." They stood together as the sun set over the peaks, painting the snow in shades of gold and orange and red. The wind whispered through the pines. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled. Another answered. Elara smiled. Not the performative smile she'd learned to wear growing up. Real, unguarded, happy. She was home. Not the house she'd grown up in, with its peeling paint and financial pressures. Not the life she'd been pushed toward, all appearances and obligations. But here, on this mountain, in this cabin, with this person who'd helped her find herself. Home wasn't a place you were born into. It was a place you chose. A place you built with your own hands and sweat and determination. A place that demanded everything from you and gave back meaning. This was hers. Theirs. Built from nothing but will and work and the stubborn refusal to accept a life that didn't fit. The mountain hadn't saved her. She'd saved herself. The mountain had just given her the space to do it, the challenges to prove it, the silence to hear who she really was underneath all the noise. "Come on," Kale said, heading back toward the cabin. "Let's eat. Tomorrow we've got work to do. We always have work to do." "Exactly. And that's how we like it." Elara followed him inside, into the warmth and the light and the life they'd built together. Outside, the mountain stood eternal and indifferent, beautiful and deadly. exactly as it had always been. And she wouldn't have it any other way.